What's up, YouTube family? It's your guy TunedinTony, and I got the Dontez Akram with me here today.
What's up? It's your boy Dontez Akram. This is my clothing brand, OneLove Clothing.
I literally just met this guy not too long ago because he moved down here from Cleveland all the way to Atlanta. And just networking. I was like, yo, could you get on the show? I think you got a lot to offer the people with just your immense amount of knowledge, clothing brand stuff, just your story is crazy. I really think that it can relate to a lot of you guys. So I got my guy, Tez. What's up?
Yo, what's good? It's your boy, the real Tez, man. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Ready to drop some game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So let us know, for the people who haven't been following you, even though you have a good following on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere, really. Just let them know, like, who you are, what do you do, just a little quick story.
Yeah, so my name is Dontez Akram from Cleveland, Ohio, 23-year-old father, entrepreneur. I currently own 4 businesses. I also own the #1 clothing brand server in the world. Big on content, making content to change perspectives, to educate those out there who want the information. And most importantly, I do everything that I do to stay pure. I have really solid intentions with everything that I'm doing and where I want to go. So, for me, I love being true to myself and I love being real. So.
Dope. So you're born in Cleveland, right?
Absolutely.
Born. Have you lived there your whole entire life? Like.
So I was born there, and then we actually moved to Egypt
Egypt.
Egypt when I was 8 years old. So
okay.
From 8 to 12, we moved and lived in Egypt, and we came back during the summer times.
So I guess before I even get to that, because we gotta talk about living in Egypt, because that's different. Are you like, what's your nationality? Like, where does that come from? Where did that choice come from?
So really, my mom just kind of chose that one.
Okay.
She one day was like, we're moving to Egypt, and I was just like, I'm not moving. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, yes, you are, because you have no other choice. And I'm like, damn, she really hit me with that.
Did you have family in Egypt?
Nah, no family in Egypt. It was just up and bounce. So it was me, my sisters, and then me and my cousins as well. We all moved to Egypt with their parents too.
Got you, because I was thinking it was like maybe your mom's people was in Egypt, but no. Okay.
No family there except for us when we moved there.
What was Egypt like?
It was different, man.
Yeah.
Like, experiencing what real poverty looks like. It made me have a sense of humbleness. Because I understood that, when you live in the United States and you come from here, it's a lot easier for you to not appreciate what you have. And that's one thing that living in Egypt taught me, is to appreciate everything. I watch people have their entire life, on the back of a donkey, a carriage. And, watching kids lay outside on the floor, and there's no police, there's no people like that are trying to help them. It's just, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So it taught me to appreciate everything that I have and, to be thankful, because God created earth and he created everything on it. So at the end of the day, you got to appreciate everything that he gave you, even the opportunities.
Right. Dope. So you lived from Egypt from 8 to 12, and then you came back to Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
So then when you came back to Cleveland, I know that you used to do like do-rags, right? With like snag rag. I've been seeing that on your following. Like, when did that start? Because obviously probably didn't start at 12.
No. So I graduated high school, and then I ended up having my daughter at 18. So crazy thing is, she was born January 8th. My mom was born January 9th. I was born January 10th, so 8, 9, 10. And when she was born, a couple months after, I think she was like 4 or 5 months, that's when I started delivering do-rags locally in Cleveland.
Okay.
And that was before I came up with the business name Snag Rag. Really what I was doing is I was buying from a beauty supply store that was literally a couple minutes away from my mom's house. And the owner spoke Arabic, so we were able to build a relationship. And I don't think he really thought that I would be speaking Arabic or lived in Egypt. So when I told him, me and him built a solid relationship. So I was able to buy do-rags from him. Okay. And I would just post it on my Instagram like, yo, I got all these different colored do-rags. Let me know, and I'll pull up on you and drop it off. So I would, sell it to them for a profit, and then I would charge people for delivery as well.
Dang. So was the do-rag idea like an idea out of like a need, or like did you see it somewhere? Like, what made the do-rag idea come to?
Honestly, it just, like, my friend was actually in the car with me, and she was like, I was actually going there, I think, to get a brush for my hair, because I was big into waves.
Okay.
And I was actually going to get a brush, and she was like, you know what, you should start selling do-rags. I'm like, no, you're not about to take my idea. I'm about to go sell do-rags.
Right.
And she's like, I'm giving you that idea. I think you should do it. And I was like, you know what, that one idea ended up transforming the rest of my life.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah. So did you already have your daughter when you started the do-rags? Like, where were you at?
Yeah, so I did. I had just got kicked out of my house when I was delivering do-rags.
You got kicked out of your house?
Yeah. Dang. So, at 18, I was actually 19. So 19, I got kicked out. And I was buying and selling do-rags. I was keeping all my do-rags in the trunk and in the backseat of my Impala.
So where was your mindset at being 19 years old, having a daughter, being kicked out? Because, like, I know you as of now, successful, you know what I'm saying? Tez, millionaire Tez, all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Where's your mindset at that point?
I was stuck. Like, I was scared. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what was going on. You know, I knew we had a roof over our head. I knew we were getting food.
Yeah.
But it was also like, you know, I didn't want to end up like a statistic. I didn't want to be like everybody else.
Right.
So, you know, I was nervous. And then having a newborn, I didn't want her to grow up in that type of environment. So, you know, I worked my ass off. You know, I worked various jobs. I would put 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours in a week. Grind my ass off, wake up 5 in the morning, go work until 5 or 4 p.m., then do the same thing for 4 days straight, then take 2 days off, then hit the weekend doing the same thing. That was just kind of like where I was at with it. So, you know, my mindset was, you got to go harder. You got to go figure this shit out.
Yeah. What type of jobs did you have during that time?
So when I first got kicked out, I actually worked at Abercrombie and Fitch when I was in high school. So I got paid $7.10 an hour, which was damn near nothing.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was good for me to be in that position to work a job and know what it's like. But when we got kicked out, I started working at a factory job. Okay. And basically what we were doing were CAD welding. So we were melting pieces together. Yeah. And for me, it was huge for me to work in an industry like that because I start to see how systems work. Because in order to keep this machine running, you need assembly, you need CAD welding, you need shipping, you need all of these different things in order to keep this monster moving. Right. So it kind of taught me about business, but I was never thinking about it from that point. Right. I only started thinking about it after I started my businesses.
Got you. So then when you were doing, how long did you work at the factory job?
Probably like 7 or 8 months.
7 or 8 months. Then what came after that?
So after that, the person who actually trained me in that area, he actually got cancer from one of the like the fumes and the smells from melting things because you're not supposed to be smelling that. Yeah. So he actually ended up getting cancer, and you know, once he got cancer and he was telling me about it, he was going to sue the company. I was like, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like I dipped.
Wasn't worth it.
Wasn't worth it. So I ended up quitting, and then I started selling cable at Sam's Club, Best Buy, stuff like that. Yeah.
So you were the guy literally when you're shopping that you're stopping the people saying like, yo, can I help you out? Like get your cable, and everyone's like, no. So let's just talk about like business and sales, right? Because so many people are so against hearing the word no. Yeah. In that type of environment, I know all you heard was no and very little yeses.
Yeah. What it taught me was like never back down. You know, you're gonna take a lot of no's throughout life. You know what I mean? There's gonna be so many people that you pitch your business idea to that won't believe in you. You know, and I think I used to take hundreds of no's to the face a day, then still go back home to my newborn child, sleep on the floor or in a twin size bed with my with my daughter and her mom on a twin size bed, or I would let them take the bed and I would sleep on the floor. I used to come back home to that and then wake up the next day with the hopes that I'll find somebody that's going to say yes. So what I learned is just like, you got to learn how to keep a median with your emotions. So what I mean by that is never get too high off your highs and never too low off your lows. So what I started learning is the more I have the ability to get up after somebody tells me no to go look for that yes, what now happened is when I started finding those yeses, it made it like satisfying. Like I took all these no's and now I finally got that yes. Yeah. And when you get that first one, like for me, when I got that first one, I just went ballistic afterwards. Like I knew exactly what worked. I knew how my body language should be. I knew what things I should say. And then I started learning how to tailor my script to certain people. So that's when I started getting unique in the way I would be able to talk. I started learning scripts and start, you know, talking and saying things differently to other people. And, you know, I would stutter a lot. And that's why I think I'm able to come onto podcasts and I'm able to teach without as much stuttering and things like that. Although it's human, but at the end of the day, I think I'm doing pretty good so far.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, because really what I'm hearing is just like, no matter what you go through, there's always skills that are going to be learned, right? Yeah. So through that, and another thing that I heard too is like I learned how my body language was. I figured out what made people tick, what made people say yes, and a lot of times in any industry field that you're in, there's some type of framework that you have to stick to, but a lot of times we go off track. Yeah. But once you found that framework, that's what helped you be able to be excel at your job that you was at.
Absolutely.
Dope. So then, you know, I'm just leading the people up because I know you with the clothes and, you know, all the success that you have now. What happened after you were selling, you know, like Comcast and stuff? Because I'm sure that wasn't forever. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, so I worked there for about 9 months. I got a marketing development manager role on my resume, so I was able to start getting paid more now. So one thing that I always thought about was making sure that I increased my ability to make money solely by increasing the information that I have, and then that just having certain things on your resume that says certain things, it does increase the amount of money that you can make. So what I did was I took that and I started to apply to car sales jobs because my best friend, he had started getting into cars. So he was selling at Subaru, and then I started applying. I didn't get accepted at his job, and then I got accepted at Mitsubishi. and it was a super slow brand. So I just continuously worked to try to get into his job. I used to come to the events, try to talk to the manager and things like that. And then one day, like, he actually let me in. Yeah. And that first month, I sold 10 cars in the month. And I think the average for everybody was like, for new people, most people didn't do more than 5 cars. So I doubled that. And, you know, for me, I had made the most money in a month at that point than all of my other jobs.
Congrats. So what is it like being in that type of sales environment where you're only taking home what you kill? You know, if you don't kill, you don't eat.
Yeah, so basically we did get paid hourly, but we also were on commission as well. So we get $150 per car that we sold. Okay. And then percentage of the profit, you know, if the dealership profited. So for us, you know, for me, I think it was competitive. You know, I liked it. It was 16 salespeople in one dealership. You know, everybody's close. We're all like family. You know, you got different portions of the job. So you got the sales team, you got the people on the phone upstairs, you got the managers, 3-4 managers, then you got the finance managers. So what I would try to do is, like, I used to be like, man, I know I'm selling cars, I know I'm good at this, I'm really good. I found that sales was my passion. I was really good at that. That was my talent, because when I was growing up, I always told myself, like, you don't have no real talents. And I think what that did was, although some people may take it as you're talking down on yourself, I took it as I'm about to just go work 10,000 times harder than everybody else who has talent. Because when talent fails to work hard, then at the end of the day, they'll never do anything for you. Right. So for me, I just was like, you know, I'm gonna go work 10 times harder than everybody. I know I can't sing. I know I can't play basketball the best. I don't have the most bounce or speed. But if I work harder than you, then I know for a fact that, you know, I'm gonna be a lot farther than where I thought I could be.
Got you. And then at this part in your life, are you still like on the floor, like still like what's going on?
So at this point, my mom did accept us back into her house. She really only accepted me for real, but since I did have a kid, she, you know, kind of opened us back in after a situation that we had, and from there we were just like kind of making everything work. You know, my expenses were extremely low, so I was living very, very below my means. I was never paying rent or anything like that until my mom let us move back in, so I would pay her here and there. But she was never like super strict, like, oh, you got to pay me $700 a month and blah blah blah. It was just more so like, when you got it, you know, pay for groceries, wash your dishes, make sure you clean up behind yourself. Just same thing that it was like before I got kicked out.
Got you. Were you in e-commerce at this point?
So when I was selling cars, I actually did. So I started to deliver do-rags before I got the job selling cars. Then that's when I started to build and learn about Shopify and Alibaba. And I first learned about drop shipping. And then I was like, I tried it. I started selling ring lights, and then I didn't really see any success with it. Right. And then that's when I started my do-rag brand. And then the do-rag brand, like, I literally learned how to build that just off of my phone. And for me, it was just kind of like, you know, I got to make things work.
So when you say off your phone, like, you made the website off the phone?
I mean, I did everything off the phone.
On the phone?
Yeah, I couldn't afford a computer at the time. So I was literally going on my phone, watching a YouTube video on how to build a website. And then I would go back to my Shopify store, make the change that they just made, then go back to the video, and I would do that back and forth. It was a 4-hour video. I did that back and forth. I don't even know how many times I would have to rewind and then rewatch and then rewatch the whole thing over again to make sure I did everything right. It was a process, man. But now that I look back at it, I love it, because now that I can build websites with quickness and with ease, it's not something I even think about. It's just like natural for me now. Yeah. You know, it makes me appreciate it a lot more.
Right. And I think what's crazy to me, what's like mind blown, is me being a graphic designer, web designer. I couldn't imagine creating something off of my phone, like website wise, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking iMac 27-inch, whatever, but you're coming from a place of like, this has to work. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, times is tough. I've got responsibility. You know, I got this daughter, and then it's like, I need, you know, the masses to see this. So I'm literally going to use the tools that I have to make this work. And that's what so many people miss, is they make excuses like, until I have, you know, my laptop or my MacBook, you know, or until I have, you know, the direction and someone holds my hand, I'm going to make this happen. But sometimes you have to look at what's on the table, what I have available, what I can use, and then make the best out of that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
That's everything.
Yeah. So like, what were you doing you get the website at this time, you're grinding, you're getting out of the hole. What are you doing to get traffic?
So in the beginning, I was just posting everything on my social media. I was posting everything on Instagram, because I was Instagram heavy. But on Twitter, I was just kind of just sharing my story on there. Yeah. I had a couple posts that went viral and things like that. But, you know, to really bring in traffic, when I started selling cars, I started learning about Facebook ads, because they were running ads as the car dealership. Yeah. So I was like, man, I know it's probably smart as hell to start running ads. Yeah. So that's when I started learning about Facebook ads, and literally the same way. I started learning from Instagram, or not Instagram. I started learning from YouTube. but I never bought any courses or nothing.
Yeah.
Like I never like consumed somebody else's information so much. It was just really YouTube University for me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got off the ground, and then through experience. And then I don't think I bought my first course until I already made over 100K.
Yeah.
It was just like, if I could do it on my own, you know what I mean, I could, you know, surely multiply it multiple times as long as I keep learning. But, you know, I notice now if you haven't made that first 100K, 25K, 10K, it might be best for you to learn from somebody else who has done it.
Accelerate it. Right.
Got to.
Facts. So then we went from the do-rags, and then what type of success were you seeing from that?
Yes.
And how much did they cost? How much were you selling them for? Let's let the people know, like, the whole.
Yeah, so we had really good margins. We had like a 63% profit margin.
Okay.
Basically what we were doing, we're just buying it from manufacturers overseas. We were literally paying under $3 for it, under $3.50.
Yeah.
And then what we would do is we would go back, if it was like a designer product, like designer bonnets, designer do-rags, we go online and sell it for $19.99.
Got you.
And then people would pay for shipping as well. So we charge like 50 cents higher than what the shipping would charge cost us. So that way we make a little bit more money. And sometimes if you're in a certain state, if it just so happened to be a little bit higher, then it wouldn't take too much of our profit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I geared my business. And, you know, again, we were spending less than $3 per product, selling it for $20. So for me, that was like a win situation, especially now that I'm doing something that was making a lot of money. And, you know, when I first had my first 5K day, I was like, my job paid me this in a month.
5K day, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm 20 years old and I had a 5K day. And I was like, yo, every time I hit a new milestone, it was like, okay, I had 5K in a day, 10K in a day is possible.
Right.
Okay, I did 10K in a day, 50K in a day is possible. Did 50K.
Right.
Do 50K, 75K, did 75K, and then, you know, so on and so forth. So, you know, I think it's very important to have certain milestones set that you want to reach. And then when you do reach them, you know what I'm saying, make sure that you guys are focused on getting to that next milestone.
Dope. So let's talk about, like, since, you know, some of these people are t-shirt people, clothing brand people, whatever, what were like the MOQs, minimum order quantities on do-rags when you're ordering from overseas, since, you know, they are lightweight? What did you have to do?
Honestly, we didn't really have an MOQ. With the manufacturer that I had, they kind of were like, you know, just buy as much as you want. And they were literally just open. So I think at the time, if they did have an MOQ, it was like 50 per piece. But for me, it wasn't something that I was really stressed about, because I knew for the amount of products, I was holding all of my inventory in the house. So I wasn't really stressed about it. I'm like, even if I buy 100 pieces and it only cost me $200, $300, that's not really costing me a lot of money. And at the time, I was still working my job as well. So, you know, with me working the job as well, I was able to reinvest the profits from the business back into the business, and I was able to utilize the money from the job to invest in the business. So I had two streams of income going into one vehicle that would allow me to make more money.
Got you. So what I'm hearing also is another thing that you were doing is like investing the money from the job. And then that's a word of advice that a lot of people can't think about too, is like literally from listening to your story, living below your means at that time, right? And then, you know, a lot of times with your job, you know, we hear all of this like, don't work a 9 to 5, entrepreneurship is this. But if you are working a 9 to 5 and you do have entrepreneur aspirations, think about how I can now use that job as my investor, right? So if, you know, I don't have any social proof, I don't have anything off the ground yet, your job is your main investor. So stop looking at your job as a place where it's like, oh, I gotta be here, I gotta be here. Let's figure out how I can kill some of these expenses in my daily lifestyle, and then shave some of that, you know, weekly paycheck off and just divert it to it. You know what I'm saying? It may be slower than if you had some type of funding or whatever, but you got to start looking at the tools on the table. You know what I mean? What were some of the bottlenecks you saw in business going from selling those do-rags locally to when you knew you had to scale to overseas vendors?
Man, honestly, it was like people in my city were still buying from me, but I started realizing that I was now accessing a completely different type of people now, because they were in different states. So, you know, I had to learn how to have really solid customer service. You know what I mean? Emails, making sure I was on top of those, because sometimes we'd have big days. Like I remember we had like a 15K day, and it was so many orders, because doing 15K off of a $20 product, you have a bunch of orders.
Right. That's a lot of orders.
Yeah, so I'm like doing 400 orders in a day. I'm like, sometimes I'll be tired and I don't want to do it, and then I'll leave it to the next day, and then don't do it the next day, and then you know, those emails start coming in like, hey, I was supposed to get it on this day, and then like being able to be respectful enough to actually learn how to respond to it. So I think that was one very big thing that I learned, and I think every person out there, you know, make sure you guys hold yourself accountable when it comes to those orders, because people do expect to get them in the time frame that you give them.
Exactly. When did you make your pivot to clothing from the do-rags? And were you still working at the car salesman? Like, where's all this at?
Yeah, so basically when I switched to clothing, I actually had already quit my job. So
Okay.
that wasn't really something that I was focused on. Like, the business was doing 10K a month easily without any advertising or anything like that. So I was like,
Just off of Instagram?
just off Instagram. So, off the 10K, we were probably profiting like 7,500. So I was like, what, like that's more than enough for me to like, step aside. And also I was never bad with money.
Yeah.
So when I left my job, I had over $30,000 saved.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So at the age I'm 20,
Is that coming from the clothes or from the job?
that was coming from the job and the do-rags. And then that's when I used that money to start the clothing brand. And I did everything off of a pre-order. So basically I didn't spend any money out of pocket outside of the samples and photography, which literally only cost me $300.
Gotcha.
And I was able to build the business from the ground up. We did $10,000 in 72 hours for our first pre-order. And once we did that, I was shocked. Like, I just started a whole nother business. We did 5 figures the first weekend that we started. I was like, yo, I think I have something right here. So I started, continuously elaborating on it and building on it and, scaling it. And, now we doing rebrands and all types of different things to, really keep pushing the brand. But, one thing that I realized is if it's your passion, then you got to really put, some energy and some effort behind it. But when you have so many different things going on, because, I've learned a system that allowed me to create businesses quickly.
Right.
And it allowed me to scale them quickly to 6 figures and then 1 to 7 figures. But what I realized is having all of these different businesses isn't always healthy, because you're not really managing and focusing on one and taking that to 8 or 9 figures.
Right.
So for me, I think if I would have sticked with the do-rag brand in the beginning when it was doing crazy numbers, it would have never, dropped off in sales. It would have been able to continuously elaborate. But I do think that because I was teaching people about e-commerce, I think a lot of people wanted to jump into do-rags because that's what they see me doing. So it made sense. I was never mad or anything like that, but it was more so like I had to be aware of the competition that I was creating for myself, because in that market, in that niche, you're always going to have competition.
Facts. Let's talk about, just a social media narrative, right? When you said like, it could be not healthy having all these businesses, which of course makes sense, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then, now all you're hearing with social media is the word 6 and 7 figures, all these multiple income streams, generational wealth. How do you have the balance for multiple businesses? But then like not overdoing it, because like social media is always talking about, oh, you got to have, 7 streams of income. And this is, I do Turo, Airbnb, this is and that. But how do you like stay laser focused to where you don't have to be so spread out? You know what I'm saying?
I just don't think people should spread themselves out so thin. I think for me, right now I have a lot of businesses, and I understood after I had a lot of businesses that had already, 3 6-figure brands and a 7-figure business, like having all of these different businesses, it's very hard to continuously elevate them.
Right.
And what I realized, having all these different streams of income, you can create multiple streams from one business.
Right.
So I think, being able to do so is very important, because at the end of the day, now you're not focusing on completely different messages, completely different brands, different social media pages. You're focused solely on one, and then building and elaborating on that message and just focusing on nurturing that audience.
Got you. So pretty much what I like to call that is vertical integration,
Absolutely.
right? So for everybody listening too, like vertical integration is literally finding what's in your business and how can you keep upselling and, upsell, downsell, expounding on that one thing. So perfect example would be like a Chick-fil-A, right?
Absolutely.
So, we're all familiar with Chick-fil-A. We know that they can move a line within like 10 minutes. They're building customer trust, but the way they're able to do that is they have a decently sized menu, but it's not vast, right?
Yeah.
They're literally looking at like, what's our core product? That core product is that piece of chicken, right? That filet. So then what they're able to do is cut that filet into strips. And then with those strips, they're able to like put those into salads, but then they can take those strips back, slice them into nuggets, right?
Yep.
So they're literally looking at like, what's my core product? I'm gonna split it into 5 different avenues to sell multiple different products to people, but it's not gonna bottleneck us because we're staying focused on that core product.
Exactly.
For sure. So then like, let's get into, with just like clothes, what I'm saying? Like I see you got the OneLove on now, you know what I'm saying? Definitely check them out.
Amen.
OneLove. But when you got into that, my background is in t-shirts. It's coming straight out of like screen printing.
Yeah.
Did you start with screen printing? Did you go straight overseas with manufacturers? What did you do?
So basically I went straight to overseas because that was already something that I was already doing with
the do-rags.
Yeah. So basically what I did was I literally took everything that I was already doing and I just made a completely different business. So basically what I did was I, found suppliers off of just Alibaba. I started looking at all of the different samples that I was getting. I wasted some money here and there, but then I found that once manufacturer. And then we started off with jogging suits, and we did 3 color jogging suits. We dropped it during the 72 hours. We did a 72-hour pre-order. We promoted it for about 2 weeks. And then, when we opened again, we did, I think 4K the first day. Next day, I think we did another 3K, and then that last day we did 3K because I used a lot of scarcity on that last day. Like, this is the last opportunity you'll get to pay, half of the price that you would have to pay normally.
Is this Facebook ads or organic?
It's all organic on Instagram.
That's crazy. So let's just stop and talk about that right now, too, because I think a lot of people feel like they can't start because they feel like, I don't have money for Facebook ads, right? So, like, what were some of the tactics you were doing with being organic? Like, what were you posting? Like, what were you showing to get people to, like, really rock with what you had going on?
So, number one, I think to properly grow organically on social media, number one, you really have to focus on the message that you're trying to put out there for your brand. Because with having a clothing brand, there has to be something that resonates with the audience. So, what I would do is I would have different pieces of content that resonated with the message that I was trying to deliver to my audience. Number two, what I would do is I will also have a lot of photo shoots because now I started bringing in the family orientation into the brand. So now OneLove is now not just, a meaning. Now it shows you it's family orientated. So I had a photo shoot, me, my daughter, and my little sister, and one of the pictures and videos ended up going viral. And it was just kind of like one of those situations where it's like, okay, this works. Now we can continue elaborating on it. And then after that, we had a lot of people purchasing. But what I didn't know is because it was a family brand now, a lot of people were buying things for them and their family. So now it increased my average order value without me even thinking about it. Because now if a mother wants it, then she wants to get her husband it. And then if the husband has it, then they have 2 kids, then they got to get both their kids it. So with me having my daughter in the photo shoot, not only continuously elaborating on her portfolio and helping her, get out there more, it allowed me to make more money on top of that because now people are realizing like I want to match with my family. So
Right. And the post that went viral, was that the one you used for the shade room?
Yes, that's the same one.
Okay, so we're going to get into that, but also like when we talk about I want to talk about social media later.
Yeah.
What I did here is that you use the content that showed that social media showed you that they liked.
Exactly.
Right. So now, this is was this your first time really like risking some money on like ads, like to that level, like literally like, because Facebook ads people feel a little bit safer with, but like you tried like shade room, and I know that's not cheap. Like, I mean, I remember when it used to be $2,500. How much did you have to pay?
I had to pay $3,300 for a carousel.
$3,300 for a carousel. Were you nervous? Because at that time, it's like you could have posted and nothing could have came from it. Maybe a couple follows, maybe a couple likes.
Yeah,
but
I was kind of nervous, but not really though, because I had, like I said, I was already good with money. I had a lot of money saved up, so I was like, it's an investment in myself. And at the end of the day, I can kind of see what happens, and you lose out on $3,300, you make another $3,300 back in a couple days. So it really wasn't something big to me. But when I did it, we literally gained, I think, 16,000 followers in I think it was 24 or 48 hours.
Okay.
And that really pushed my personal brand as well a lot farther, as well as the brand, because we had a lot of sales coming in. But it was a learning lesson for me. Like using promo pages was lucrative back then.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's super lucrative now, just because
the algorithm and stuff.
The algorithm, number one. Number two, people already know about it. Like so many people have talked about it now, so that's why I really don't want to talk about it as much. But I do want to say that content is always going to be king, because at the end of the day, you make a great piece of content, it can go viral. The algorithm is going to be the algorithm. You can't control it. And one thing I always say is you have to let go of the things you can't control and solely focus on the things you can control, which is your reaction, how much content you post, what type of content you decide to post, how much information are you getting on your data? Like, how much are you dissecting the data? Like, are you looking at it? If not, then that might be a reason why you can't get the views and the likes and metrics that you want.
Got you. So someone like you, I see you all over, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whether it's LinkedIn, on YouTube, what I'm saying? I see you everywhere. How does someone like you use metrics to plan out content to go viral, to, get sales, to do all the things that you're using this tool of social media for?
Yeah, so I watch a lot of people on content creation. Shout out to Alex Ramosi. I've seen some of the posts that he talked about, but I was actually doing this before I even seen that post, where basically I would take a tweet, and if a tweet did really good, I would turn it into an Instagram post. And now that, pictures don't do as well unless it's a thread on Instagram, now we just post it and turn it into a reel. But what I did was if something did get really good on Twitter, I would post it on Instagram. And then if it did really good on Instagram, now I would post it on TikTok. But I kind of switched it up now because TikTok is kind of my main priority now, just because it's the quickest thing when it comes to engagement and when it comes to attention. So basically now what I do is I post on TikTok First, the idea that I got from Twitter, I'll remake it into a video on TikTok. If it does good on TikTok, then I take it and I post it on Instagram Reels because it would probably do well there as well. And then I also do a lot on YouTube Shorts just to, continuously focus on the one platform that has been proven to be around the longest. The algorithm is not cheating you. You really got to work hard for it. But
once they want you to earn it.
Yeah. And that's what I like. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go out and earn what I want. And, paying for it and things like that, you got to get there. Ads is, I wouldn't say you're paying to get there. You're paying to get a return on your money. But I think it's very important for people to pay attention to the type of content that they're posting, and the metrics isn't always important, but you do have to look at it in terms of other platforms and taking pieces of content and putting it onto another platform for repurposing.
Definitely. And then also just paying attention to how the social media algorithms are changing and stuff, and especially like YouTube Shorts, right?
Yeah.
So like, of course, at the beginning, what I would probably suggest to people is, until you have enough time to really start deciphering what goes onto which platform, at least just start posting, right? So you can literally take that same Instagram reel, move it to TikTok, move it to YouTube Shorts. Of course, they do kind of give you discredit you when you have the little logos on there. But also what I just heard too with YouTube Shorts is that what they're going to start doing is connecting shorts to long form content. So the more shorts that you post, people are seeing them. They're going to start recommending the long form content because ultimately they know that's what keeps people on there, more advertisers, et cetera, et cetera.
Geniuses.
Yeah, for sure. Also what I wanted to ask you is what types of content are performing best for you?
So for me, I kind of let TikTok kind of choose. TikTok did choose for me. One day I just decided to do all right, let me just do top 3 men tips.
Yeah.
And I did it and it went viral. And I was that was the first thing that brought me my first 20,000 followers on TikTok. And I was like, oh, I have to try this again. So I tried it 3 more times, viral. And it was just wow, this actually is something that works. So I continued to make and gear my content towards men. And, then I started learning how to weave my offers into it. So some men wanted to start a clothing brand. I would, hey, give them 3 tips. Hey, check me out here if you want to learn about building a clothing brand, and try to get them into my services and things like that.
Dope. And then what would you say, since you have gone viral multiple times, which is something that a lot of people strive for every day, the content that you post, do you naturally post it to go viral, or you just wake up and you're like, oh, wow, this is, it's doing its thing, it's growing legs, it's running?
I never post content to try to go viral. I think I post content to over-deliver to my audience.
Yeah.
I've learned that, going viral is something that you can't control. You can try to make something that goes viral, and it just doesn't. You know what I mean? And when I did try, I noticed that the content was less organic. It was less me. So now that I don't focus on trying to go viral now I just create content that I feel like is going to educate my audience, something that they like and something that they will share.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the best way to go viral, is to focus on shares. But if you're not over-delivering, if you're not changing perspectives, if you're not informing or educating, then they're not just going to share it.
Right.
So those were the things that I started to focus on.
Got you. So let's talk about this too, just for the audiences that are watching, whether they're, Gen Z, baby boomer, millennials, whatever they are. You being 23, how do you manage, because I've been watching your stuff, you know what I'm saying? I've seen you got the stock portfolio, you got stuff set aside for your daughter, then you're running your businesses, and then you even say you got your tax account, everything that you're supposed to have.
Right.
And then I'm looking at you at 23 years old. How are you able to stay disciplined to manage that?
I mean, I think I could credit my religion too. You know, being disciplined, and my mom as well, making sure I think it just came from life experiences. I never wanted to go back to being broke. So for me, I started to solely remember what it was like to be broke, and I never wanted to mess the bag up because I had new people who messed the bag up. So what I started doing is I started investing. I'm like, look, I'm not going back to sleeping on the floor. I don't want to know what it's like to deal with those situations again. So what I started doing is I started investing everything into my businesses, and then I started learning about stocks through my old friends, and they taught me a lot of stuff, and I greatly appreciate them for that, because it allowed me to do and further myself more than what I could have if I just held the money the whole time. So, I think when it comes to managing all of it at this age, I sometimes just think I'm a little bit farther ahead than, my age can actually show you.
Right.
I do think I'm above average thinker. And for me, it's just more so the more investments that I make, the more I set myself up for the future. And that's my goal.
Got you. So for me being, in e-commerce, I got this big warehouse here, whatever. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about so I could shed light on all the other people is, how were you shipping your products out? Were you always shipping from the house, or what were you doing, like with the clothes especially?
Yeah, so when we started off with do-rags, everything was out of the trunk of my car when we were delivering. When we started the online business, we started in my mom's basement, then we moved to the second room in her house. And then on top of that, we ended up actually moving all the clothes in there as well. Okay. So we had clothes in we had the clothes in the do-rag in the same room. And then when the clothes started really taking off, I moved everything to the basement for the clothes, and then the do-rags were in one room. So I was literally taking up 3 spaces in my mom's house, technically my room, the second room, and then the basement. And I was literally shipping out everything. Shout out to my mom, shout out to my little sister Adi, shout out to my older sister Sam.
They were helping you.
Yeah, bro. I had some days where orders would just get so crazy. I would stay up till 3 a.m. and still not done, and I'll wake up and then I'll ask them like, can y'all please help me? Like, I just need some help with this, and then they'll help me get the stuff out. So it built a strong relationship with me and my family, and to show them my success and what was possible. I think it was allowed them to see, like, if it's possible for me, then I can do it, or if it's possible for you, I can do it too.
Yeah, and what I like about that, what's super dope is I like to teach a lot of like my students with, like in the t-shirts, and I don't always just want to highlight the wins. I like to speak about things that I've done like wrong that probably weren't the best. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm hearing from you is like, it may not be comfortable, right? Yeah. To be in your house, shipping stuff out, breaking the house down in a sense, because it's your storage unit, right? But the good thing about it is you were able to keep these overhead expenses low, right? Very low. And then in return, what you were able to do is you had extra money, which has allowed you to divert into those different places to create investments versus, what I would say that I could have done a little bit too much, what I'm saying, is always been like scale. Yeah. And then what that turns into is bigger warehouse, more employees, all this type of stuff. And what happens is, it's not that your business isn't successful, it's just you have so much overhead, it's hard to see this success. Yeah. So looking at, us being somewhat in the same type of niche but being different, that's something that I would like to share with the people watching. Absolutely. Is definitely don't try to just like scale up as fast as you possible just to like have a sign on the front of a building. Yeah, that's what I'm saying? So that's definitely something I want to share with them. And then I also saw too that you were in like Discord, like you got this server, right? What is this server called Limitless? Yeah, so it's Limitless Investmentz on the #1 clothing brand server in the world. Literally, I kind of started off as a free group chat back when I first started selling courses. This was probably in 2020. And I literally created it as a free server for any and everybody who purchased my courses. And what I started realizing, it was so many people results. Like, it was actually scary to me to think that my teachings was that good. And I had this group of, at the time it was around 5,000, 6,000 people in this one Discord server. And that's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. And the chat was always booming. And I didn't fully take advantage of it at the time. And that's one thing that I truly regret, is not focusing on my audience as much, because I felt like it was just free. You know what I mean? And people come in, they could talk, and I wasn't really engaged as much. So, after couple of years, I ended up turning into Limitless Investmentz, where we branched off and we really focused on clothing brands, but we also started to integrate other things like sports betting, like stocks trading, long-term investing, mental Mondays. So we started adding all these different things that I felt like entrepreneurs will absolutely need, or if it's just a person who wants to make a quick buck, you can do sports betting. Or if a person who wants to learn about stocks, we have different traders and different investors that are in there that'll educate you on those things, and we provide videos and resources and PDFs to the audience and to the members in there to make sure that they are constantly getting different information for the amount of money that they're paying, which is only $75 a month. You get access to classes every single day of the week. Every day, Monday through Friday. Dang, teachers live Dang. Teachers, okay. 1 hour calls, Q&A calls every week. So that was my focus. And really, the money is great, but however, I think getting the results back and be able to see and actually take part in their lives, I want to be able to, again, in 5 years, I want my people to look back who are millionaires and things like that. I want them to be like, Tez helped me start, and not to take credit for anything, but it just helps me realize that I'm doing my purpose. So now that you said like living your purpose, is that how you got into like teaching people? Like, where did all this come from? Because I know like your content is very nurturing. You're always teaching. When I like look at your Instagram, giving people like pointers on like whether it's the men tips, but also like e-com and all that type of stuff. Yeah, so I think that is my purpose. I think God put me here to change perspectives. I think he put me here to educate people and to show people what's possible through showing them my story and documenting the journey. So I truly love teaching. I think a lot of people really just solely do it for money. And the dope thing is since I love what I do,
yeah, I made a lot of money, and yeah, I built these businesses, but more importantly, the amount of people that I've been able to help. For me, I think about it like, if I can help these people plant these seeds, and then they can water it over time, and then their kids or their family can come by later and take advantage of the fruits of their labor. I think that's one of the most powerful things that you can do on earth.
Right.
So I think I keep that true to me, and I think that's how I stay pure to myself, and I always focus on the things that matter the most, which is helping people get to where they want to get to.
Facts. So, I mean, everybody sees the highlights, right? They're like, dang, Tez is killing it. Young millionaire, young doing this, got these businesses, a lot of great content. What are some of the failures that you've had that people can learn from?
I think one of the biggest failures I had was like buying a lot of inventory from manufacturers, and so much to the point where I didn't think about it. I just thought, we're going to be able to do it.
Was money just coming in and you were just like buying it because, the Pakistan people are always asking, do you need more stuff?
Yeah, so I was buying a bunch. At the time, I had spent like $70,000 on inventory.
Sheesh.
And what I wasn't realizing is that the seasons was about to change. And what happened was when they shipped it, not only was it delayed, but it got water damage. So 30% of it got water damage. So with clothes, it smelled like mildew. Yeah. So I had to literally chalk up 30% on the clothes. And then it was late, so I couldn't drop it when I wanted to. So now I ended up I ended up having so much inventory. Yeah. And then I tried to do a rebrand, and then I dropped more money on the more suits, and then I couldn't drop it because of the season. So it was just like I wasn't thinking properly. So I've made dumb decisions with money. I made dumb decisions with investments, in stocks and things like that. However, I do think that they were just lessons. It was a dumb mistake, but at the end of the day, you learn from it. There's other things that I've done. Again, I'm not perfect. I'm human, and I learn from everything that I go through, and I try to keep God close to me to continuously guide me. But you're gonna go through things throughout life. Regardless of what age you are. You're not perfect. You'll never be perfect. So don't strive to be perfect. Strive to be you.
And a lot of times too, like when people are going through things, what I'm saying, they're very uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And then when things are uncomfortable, they're just thinking like it's only them. But a lot of times you have to go through these things to get to the next level. Absolutely. Right. So like, and what the difficult part is that you don't have control of your mental. Yeah. And when you don't have control of your mental, you're just like, I don't know when this is going to be over with. Yeah. And it's eating you up. But if you knew when it was going to be over with, guess what? It wouldn't be that bad, right? Facts. So that's one thing. It's just gravitating to have control over your mindset that you're going to be able to push through these things. And then one day you look back on those things and you become thankful for them because they made you into the person you are. So for instance, it's like, I know you didn't want to sleep on the floor at 18 years, you know what I'm saying? Well, whenever that was when you had your daughter, and then you're like, it's eating you up. How do I get out of this? But I know for a fact that it probably made you a better man, right?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So just word of advice for everybody listening who is going through something, like it's not the end of the world. Just stay down, keep staying focused because it's only there for a reason to help you get to your next phase.
Absolutely. There's a couple things that I remember and I want y'all to take, is number one, don't let where you come from dictate where you're going. Just because you come from a certain area, because you grew up a certain way, doesn't mean that will be how you end up, when you die. And I think the second thing is, every person has a reason and every person has a season. So they have a reason for coming into your life and exiting your life, and they have a season for as long as for how long they're going to be in your life. So I think we got to keep those things in mind, and we got to keep those things true to ourselves. So those are two things that I would say. You learned a lot of information throughout this entire video, but I think those two things you need to take with you and really keep true to you.
Facts. So let's talk about this too, because you haven't been in Atlanta that long, right? Mm-hmm. So you came from Cleveland. Yep. What has been your experience since you've been here? And then for anybody who is watching this, who's like, man, I'm stuck. I feel like I'm stuck in my hometown. I feel like I'm a big fish in a small pond. Yeah. Like, what's some words of advice to those people who are watching this right now? Like, dang, I need to be like Tez and move to a bigger city.
Take the risk. You got to listen to the inner God in you, which is your intuition. And that little thinking, that little voice in your head, you got to listen to that, and I think, God definitely pushed me here because I knew I was in a dangerous place, especially with the amount of money I was making and who I was becoming and, social media and clout and things. I knew it was going to turn negative for me if I didn't remove myself from this environment. So you got to remove yourself sometimes. You got to place yourself in an environment where you can actually grow, where you can be around other people who actually want to see you grow, be around people who are already ahead of you. I think that was one powerful thing for me is that, for me to become a millionaire, I was already around multi-millionaires, since I had started. So it was kind of like, not even since I started, I'd probably say a year and a half in, once I started really growing on social media, I started meeting so many millionaires. And it was like, at the time, I remember saying to myself, like, I don't know no millionaires. I don't follow no millionaires or anything like that. And then now, every person I know is a millionaire, you know what I mean? Or aspiring to be one or getting there. Like, it's the fact that you want to be there. Right. And that is what was important to me, instead of, oh, I want to have this job and I want to work here and I want to do it, like, I want this type of car. That shit is not important.
Right.
Where do you want your freedom to be at? Do you want to go do things that you want to do? Like, that's most important to me.
Facts. So. And then one word that I heard you say too that's super important is environment, right? Yeah. And you got to think, like, a lot of times too, when you feel like you're going through stuff and you feel like you're not doing right, like, I look up to you, I look up to our other friends. It's like, all right, if you hang around 5 losers, you're going to be the 6th loser.
Absolutely.
But if you hang around 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th millionaire. You don't know when, but it's just the fact of, like, so many people are so stuck on competition and looking at their peers and seeing what they're doing better, when it's like, no, get around the people you need to be with, even if you're at the bottom of the totem pole, because it's inevitable that you'll be successful if you're around the right people.
Yeah, environment is key, man. And if you really want to get to a place you've never been, you have to start doing things that you've never done. You got to be around people that you're not used to being around.
Mm-hmm. So when for you, from your story, was it just like things are different now? You know what I'm saying? Because you're from the beginning of the podcast, you're telling us how you were in the mud. But then what was that change like? Because you're still working all the time. You're working on what you love to do. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You still got aspirations. But when were you like, man, things are different now?
Man, when I started investing for my daughter, that's when I thought, I was like, this is some next level shit right now.
Yeah,
like, you're not who you used to be.
Right.
And, it inspires me because, my daughter has a lot of money invested. She has a lot more money than a lot of people in their 20s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'll think to myself, like, man, you really are setting her up the right way.
Yeah.
You're doing things the right way. And although I've made mistakes in my life, right now you're mending them, and you're fixing it by making sure that your little one is good, and the future little ones. And this is why I go so hard, because I want a lot of kids. I want to have multiple kids. I want to make sure my wife is good. I want to make sure that my mom, has the house that she wants, is paid off. I want to make sure she has the car she wants. I want to get the stuff that I want. I want to travel when I want. I want to make sure that if my kids choose to go to college because they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, they have the money to do so. So those things are important for me, and that's why I go so hard.
Got you. What does that look for a parent who wants to do that for their kid, and they don't really have like the knowledge yet, and they're just thinking that it's not attainable? Like, what is some type of starter plan of how, or I mean, just from the knowledge you have, I know there's so many different ways of like how you can start putting things to the side for your kid and literally make it out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, information is everything. The less information you have, this is why you're not where you want to be. It's because you don't have the information that you need to get there. Right. So I think for the parents that are out there that are trying to get in a position where their kids can be better, or you can be better, you got to also keep in mind that information is absolutely everything. Go out there and YouTube the information if you don't have the money to purchase it. Some of you may have a little bit more money than you do time, so make sure you utilize the money to exchange it for something that will help you get more of your time, which is by investing in yourself, right? I know I heard Alex Hormozy say, invest in the S&P 500, which is important because you got to invest in yourself. And I think for whoever's out there, it's possible, but you can't do anything unless you change this.
Facts.
If I'm just being honest, you can't change your situation. You can't change your environment if you don't change your mindset and your mentality. So those are things that I think any person who's trying to get to wherever, even if you have kids or don't, you got to do those. Now, however, if you're a parent and you're trying to invest for your kids, I definitely recommend checking out M1 Finance. It's an investing platform. They do have like different things like Roth IRA accounts. You can create a custodial account. You can create a personal account. There's multiple different types of accounts that you can create on M1 Finance. But what I did was I actually created my daughter a custodial account, and I put her in her name. So basically now that I manage the business, manage the investment portfolio, I literally invest $500 to $1,000 every single month into her portfolio to make sure that, further down the line when she accesses it, when she needs it, or whenever she turns 18, that she has this money and can utilize it to follow her dreams. So that's most important to me.
And that's what I love so much too. Like, as generations are changing, more information is being learned. And the key phrase that you said, 2 things actually, like, it's not that people are smarter than you. It's just that there's an information barrier. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So the more information that you know, the more information, the easier it is, or the faster it is for you to accelerate to where you want to get to.
Absolutely.
Because it's not really about like smarts and stuff. That was more like college, you know what I'm saying? And high school and everything. I mean, that makes sense for doctors and stuff, but mainly it's just information, you know what I'm saying? And then also, Another thing that I heard too is, sometimes you don't have enough money to invest into like the stock markets and all that stuff. And a lot of times before you have that, you are your main investment. So that's why I love, instead of saying the S&P 500, it's the SME 500. And then once you get you right, then you can start focusing on the S&P, you know what I'm saying? So like, as we're talking about knowledge, what are some of the books that you're reading right now?
I think mandatory books that people should read is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon. Another book that I would read, it depends on what you're trying to do. I think a lot of people on social media, they ask me what books I'm reading, but they don't think about why I'm reading the books that I'm reading, because certain things that I'm learning, if it's funnels and if it's about, sales and stuff like that, you may not need that book, and if I recommend it to you and you start reading it and you don't really need it for, whatever you're trying to do, then it was just a waste of time. So I think Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you're really going on branding, you want to focus on personal branding or just branding a business, building a story brand is a really good brand, really good book. There's so many good books out there, man.
All about strategy I'm hearing, right? It just depends on what.
It really depends.
What's your favorite book lately?
My favorite book was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
I've seen that all over Audible. Yeah. It's an orange cover.
Orange cover is great book, man. It teaches you just not how to. It's like how not to care. You know what I mean? And, not saying that you shouldn't care about stuff. Yeah. But you should learn how to care less about things that are trying to hurt you and your emotions and trying to set you back.
Got you. My favorite books right now it's a short book, and I made content about it. Literally, you can read it one day. It's Who Moved My Cheese. You know what I'm saying? That book. Yeah, like it's like 100 pages, right? But it's so powerful because I'm thinking about where the world is now, right? Yeah. Like we're coming out of 2020, things are still weird, everything's different, you know what I'm saying? And change is inevitable. Change is going to happen, but you can't get stuck and wait for what used to be there to happen. You know what I'm saying? So with that in the book, like there's multiple characters and then they could either stay and be stubborn, but then they had to make change to move. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think people should look at as well. You know what I'm saying?
Man, storyline is everything. Make sure you guys documenting everything. The start, the end, everything.
And before we get out of here, talk about documenting, because you have a lot of documentation pictures from back in the day. Like, how important is documenting your process?
I think it's everything, because at the end of the day, people didn't believe me when I told them, from delivering do-rags, that I would be a millionaire or that I would be successful. And now, 3-4 years later, I did exactly what I said I was going to do, even though it didn't happen in the time frame that I wanted it to happen in. Nonetheless, it still happened, and nonetheless, the people who didn't think I could do it are still in the same positions that they were in when they told me I couldn't do it. So, it's a slap in the face to them, and nonetheless, I don't feel any type of way towards them. It's like, yo, you said these things, you probably don't even remember it, but that turned me up. Right. That turned me into a beast. Yeah. The moment you put my back against the wall, I'm going to show you exactly what a beast do.
Dang, that was deep. Yeah. So I guess to wrap it up, YouTube family, Tez, where can they find you at? Where can they learn from you? Get involved in this university thing that you got with Limitless Investmentz. Like, just let them know.
Definitely. So y'all can check me out on Instagram _TheRealTez, as well as TikTok TheRealTez. You guys can also check me out on TikTok or Twitter, and YouTube at Dontez Akram. Also, if you guys want to check out Limitless Investmentz, make sure you guys click the link in my bio. I offer free clothing brand classes every Thursday as well. So if you guys want to register and for free, again, it's 100% free, you can click the link in my bio on Instagram _TheRealTez. You guys can register there, and we'll make sure we notify you and everything like that on when it starts, and how you guys can stay engaged with us. But I appreciate you guys for coming in. I appreciate my guy Tony. Make sure you guys lock in. If you guys could, please drop that subscribe button. He definitely deserves it. And if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me, because I would definitely love to hear back from you guys and get some feedback. So
yes, sir. So I'm gonna drop all the links right down below so that you guys can take advantage of that. Appreciate that, my guy Ted.
Yes, right now.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.